The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's installment of Marc and Marc in the Midday. It's a big day for us, and I'm going to have to say en español, bienvenido de regreso de Cuba, which means welcome back, Marc, from Cuba. How's it going, country boy?
It's going great. I didn't understand a darn thing you said, though. I think when I was going over on that flight, I was the only gringo on the flight, and they were talking all this Spanish on there, and I said, holy shit, I'm in trouble. So, what the heck?
I was going to say, this is no different than your trip. You're not understanding something in Spanish.
Well, no, you would think a guy like me that's semi-worldly to some degree, you know, having been in, you know, Costa Rica and Panama and Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico playing and coaching and all this stuff, that I would know some Spanish, but for some reason this derelict mind of mine is just not getting on to it for some reason. You know,
see, my Spanish is pretty decent. It's just the fact that with this lousy Brooklyn accent meshed with Espanol, I don't say it with the proper accent, so it sounds like someone faking their way through it.
Well, that's okay. You know, you ride the subway once in a while, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you got to communicate.
Pick up on the subway. That's where you get it. You know, they especially from the Dominicans, because they've got the broken Spanglish. You know, they don't even have Spanglish, because I know the English teachers. I say, well, how's the Puerto Ricans English? He says, oh, it's pretty good. I said, well, how's the Mexicans? And he says, well, they kind of sing it out. And then I said, well, what about the Dominicans? They said they got to go back to school to learn Spanish. So they're trying to learn English. So I said, oh, okay, I gotcha. But the English, we just tell all the Latinos, you know, speak English, you know, play big leagues. So they actually try to get onto it, except I guess everybody but Bartolo Colon, so he's an exception.
Well, don't they have those academies down in the Dominican? Like most of the teams have them down there, where they grab these kids when they're in their teens, when they spot they have talent, and part of their curriculum is they've got to learn English, right?
Yes, that's right. But you know, they continue it up in it's more meaningful, I guess you would say, up here, because, you know, every club has the English teacher that they go to for about an hour and 15 minutes every night, and during spring training for sure, and during instructional leagues, and then you know, they're trying to pick up on it as much as they can. And you know, you see the not so smart, kind of like me, on the language thing. Then you see the ones that actually do pick it up, and you know, they can carry that in. And you know, there's no doubt about it. You know, second language really helps you. I mean, really does.
I'll tell you two guys who are great with it, and it's kind of, I don't think it's a shock too. They're one's a Hall of Famer and one's going to be, which is Big Papi and Pedro. When I hear those two guys on TV, I mean, they're fantastic. Not only do they speak English well, but they also have the humor aspect of it. They can actually make jokes in English, which I think that's like the hardest thing to do with another language.
Well, you know, yeah, both those guys are sharp. I mean,
they are sharp.
To me, there's just exceptions out there. It's like somebody that gets the big math problems, and then somebody that doesn't get the. Of course, you know, language is mathematical to some degree, I guess, you know, because it's cross-cultural, and then you get the slangs involved. But, you know, the one thing I did at my last Cuba thing here was a FIDE, and don't ask me what it stands for, but the biggest thing was it was a conference of about 60 countries. And so we all had our little headphone sets on like you're in the UN, you know. So I thought, well, I'm a big shot, you know, this is pretty cool. And so they had you know, the panel up front of 5 or 6, and then you know, they opened it up, and we had about, you know, 5 Americans there. One, Bill Franciscus, did a really good job on explaining, what did he explain again? But he did a wonderful job of carrying over about the scouting aspect and what, scouts look for in the player. And then you had Peter Caliente, and he did a super job. He's an international type of guy. He lives in Chicago, but he takes kids all over to different countries and exposes them to the baseball and the cultural aspect of those countries. And he's Italiano, so he does speak fluent Italian. And then you had Donna Cohen. And Donna was interesting. That was the first time I met Donna. Donna's out of Boston, and we're going to have her on our show here. But she is about my age, somewhere in there, and she is an agent. And I got to talking to Donna, and she had read my book, and she was laughing and stuff about the book. And then I was talking about her, asking her questions about her agent and stuff. And she has a big league manager, actually. She actually takes care of. And she's really big on making sure that she tells you that I actually take care of my people, rather than, some agents actually, different. But beside the point, she did a thing on women's baseball. She knows all the people, either the old ones or the ones that were in the movie, in a league of their own. And she brought 5 different uniforms. And women's baseball actually started in Cuba, which I did not know. And then it went to Rockford, Illinois in the United States over the war. So they played in 1943 in Rockford. And so that's the center of women's baseball in the United States.
That was the key team. That was the key team in the movie, the Rockford Peaches, I believe it was.
You are exactly right. You're exactly right. And
I know that because I've seen that movie about 10 or 15 times. My kids love that movie. Who doesn't quote, "There's no crying in baseball"?
Cannot remember that one. I know who said it, but I can't remember who was. I don't know.
That was Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks played that role where he was kind of like portraying a composite of, like, he was supposed to be like Jimmy Fox.
Right.
I think his character was Jimmy Dugan, but he was supposed to really be Jimmy Fox, who was a great Hall of Famer who was out of baseball by his mid-30s because of his drinking problem. And this was supposed to be his last chance.
Well, I know I've seen the movie, but I didn't know the movie went over. It's probably the number 1 watched movie over the men even. The statistics are just
it's my favorite baseball movie.
Yeah, and it's crazy. But they did do a wonderful job. Gina Davis, I know. I was asking her about Gina Davis for a particular reason, because Gina Davis. Yeah. She tried out for the Olympic pistol champion shooting team, and she just missed it. But I actually wanted her to take a shot at me with my Nutty Buddy cup with the military version, and say, "Hey, Gina," I'd say something not so nice to her, and she'd probably shoot me in the cojones, and I'd say, "Yeah, it works," as long as she didn't keep firing. So
well, today's day and age, if she said that to you instead of just shooting you, she'd just get a lawsuit and you'd get fired.
Yeah. Since Donna knew Gina pretty well, she says, "Well, that probably wouldn't fly." So I said, "Well, what's going to happen is I got to go get Big Chief out on the reservation to do it, because that's another country out there." So, and I know Big Chief wouldn't mind shooting me in the nuts. So whatever. You got to go that route.
Mark would tell his list of people who wouldn't mind shooting me in the nuts.
Yeah, that's a good list. We could probably have a mile long. Former high school girlfriends, and then other wives and shit like that. Man,
you might just have to narrow it down to like a top 10.
Yeah, that'd be hard. But the Cuba thing was interesting. We got in and out of there. Letty. Oh, I meant to mention Letty. Letty Annette. She came out of Cuba when she was 15. She defected legally because her parents wanted her out of there, and so she got out with the paperwork, and so she is actually allowed to go back to Cuba.
That's few and far between. Most people found their way off through boats or whatever way it can be. I think when my relatives got here, they probably snuck out with the clothes on their back in the early 60s.
I'm sure. And then, Letty's, she's 53 right now. And so it's been a while, and she can go back and forth, but it's hard for her because she has relatives, she has some allegiance because she was born there, and I do understand that, and it's got to be a tough deal for her. But she does all the travel, and it's called Letty's Travel, and we're going to talk about this later sometime too. But I personally will be taking some guys over in June to play some baseball, ages 19 through 25, and that's going to come out a little bit later. But the first time around, I didn't think it was laid out very well at all. And I knew what to do and what not to do, and who to hang out with and who not to hang out with. Letty, on the other hand, you have to get so many letters and permission. And so when I went over there, I met the top 3 dogs in Cuba, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I went to a play. It wasn't really a play, but it was put on by the government. And then, you see Fidel's flag back up in the back of there. Then you see, Fidel throughout the whole thing, a picture right there. Then they're doing this whole thing based on country, family, whatever. And there's 5,000 people there. And there was probably only us 5 or 6 Americans sitting there watching this. And that was it. And, they played the national anthem, and we stood and we watched the play. It was very, very orderly. Of course, you don't want to get out of line in Cuba because you smoke dope over there, you go to jail for 10 years. You get caught with a gun over there, you go to jail for 10 years. You do something worse than that, you probably get shot. But people always ask me, they say, well, you better watch out, Mark, over there in Cuba. I said, what for? It's probably the safest damn country in the world, because you get out of line, you just don't get out of line over there.
Yeah, it's safe as long as you don't say anything against the government, but why would you do that?
Exactly. There's no reason to go to the beach and, yell it and nobody can hear you. So
I look at it this way. I might have my opinions about it, obviously based on, familiar things and stuff like that. But if I went there, I'd keep my mouth shut because I'm a guest. And it's not my job to change the way people live or what their government is. If they wanted to do it, they could do it themselves.
Well, and it's true. It's like we're a guest. We're an ambassador. Anytime we go out to another country, we're there to set examples. It's kind of like not to do like the guys did with the basketball thing over in China. And, I'm not so sure that would have worked so well in Cuba for a little bit, but they probably would have held them a little bit longer over there since we're so close. But I don't know. I don't know. It's not my call.
Yeah. I find that amazing, though. People go to other countries and expect that they're going to react the same way and have the same customs that we do. And honestly, like my girls are going, they're going to Israel I think in January or February, and they've told them they have to learn the customs and what's going on over there and represent who we are in the best light, and not go up there and think that everything we do here is acceptable there.
Exactly right. I mean, I know when I go, I was in Australia 4 different times, 4 different years. I've been to a lot of countries. And the thing with Americans, and, I am 100% red-blooded American, but what really pisses me off about the Americans sometimes is that, yes, we do have the luxury over here. And, when you go to these countries and, we're standing in those lines when we go through customs or whatever, and they're sitting there bitching, what's holding this up or what's doing this? I'm sitting there saying, shut up, you stupid American.
Exactly. That's
the way I feel, because good grief, you're in their country, you're on their turf, shut up.
When I played hockey up in Canada, I remember standing on line in customs, and the guys I'm playing with who coming up, they're complaining about every stupid thing in the world. I'm like, guys, I mean, it's like we're a guest. If we don't like it, we don't have to come here. We could stay home. We don't have to be here, but we want to be here. So let's keep our mouth closed and just make it as quick as possible. But I think it's just an American nature to complain about everything and always think we do it better for some reason.
Well, there's some things over there that I really enjoyed. Their food was wonderful. I mean, I love rice and beans. I love pollo. I love the way they cook their food.
Did you have Cuban rice and beans with the red sauce?
I did have that one time. And,
oh my God, I love it. It's my favorite. I actually have a recipe and I make it, but I digress, of course.
I did. I had that one time, but everybody says, "Oh, well, aren't you going to get sick?" No, not really.
No.
Yeah, you don't want to drink the water so much. I mean, out of the taps, but yeah, you drink water like you're supposed to. But I've never been sick like that. People say, "Oh, you get Chorizo," and I say, "No. It's not like that." You can take the pills with you if you need them, but I've never had to go that route. But the ball players, for instance, I got a kick out of the ball players on the first trip, how relaxed they are, how natural it was for them to go out between the lines. Even the young kids, when I watched the young kids play, they had their stances already. They had their bats held up high. A 10-year-old kid with a big league stance and said, "Hey, bring it on, let's go," So he's got it built into him to say, "Hey, I'm going to be a big leaguer," And we did talk in the meeting. We did talk about Major League Baseball a little bit, quite a bit actually. It was entered into the topic of conversations in this last conference meeting. And then at the very, very end, one of the big dogs, for instance, guys that defect. And I had a guy 2 years ago that played on one of my college team that was defected from Panama. And they were trying to find a place for him to play. They thought he had a place for independent ball, indie ball, on the East Coast. Well, they couldn't get the paperwork, and so the guy came to me. It was Dave Hilton who came to me, and Dave said, "Mark, can this guy play for you?" And I said, "Well, it's a college team." And he said, "Where's he from?" He says, "Cuba." I said, when he said that, I said, "Yeah. I'll get him into some college. We'll keep thinking about it while he's playing." So he's hitting shit off the walls, at the same time. But he was really funny. He was a good guy. He was actually good for the American kids to see and to understand, when he opened up what they actually go through over there. And, it's like I never saw a lawnmower over there. They have goats and machetes. That's it. There are no lawnmowers at all.
And they have all those 1950s cars with modern engines inside them.
They have, I wouldn't say modern. I think they put together those engines they might grab a Nissan engine that was built in the 70s that, was kind of working, and they found some, rings or something to keep it from smoking. And
right, or a Russian engine or something.
Exactly. And, the paint on those cars is actually house paint, if you can even get house paint. So they went to a lot of trouble to actually polish that stuff some way. They know how to do it. But, a ride over there for an hour is $25. I said, my gosh, that's cheap. If you think about it. Yeah, you can ride around, Havana in one of these old cars, and top down and everything. Or you can get one of those horses or mule buggies and ride around for $20. And, everybody says, "Well, I don't know if Cuba's really ready or this." It's not going to change too much in the future. I don't think so. But I mean, they're getting ready to have not a regime change, but they're getting ready to have a president change. I think Raul's is going out of there in either January or February. Of course, probably the next guy is going to be as tough, if not tougher, to maintain their stance. But once again, we're getting into politics and not baseball. But the baseball part, I loved it. I loved it. And as far as going over there, these guys love to play baseball. It's like a national religion. It's their religion. Really.
I was going to say that I heard somebody once say that in Cuba, baseball is a national epidemic.
Yeah, it is. It's freaky. It's and if they know you're a baseball player, they just kind of move towards you. They kind of move closer to you. Well, oh, Americano. You play Grande League? See? Really? So, and then of course I had my Cardinal uniform on, or I had a Cardinal top on this time.
Right.
The name and number when I gave the talk, because I was actually, I didn't do the PowerPoint because I couldn't download it because I'm not smart enough. But the other thing
probably because their internet isn't that quick either, too. So.
No, that was the reason. But I'm also not smart enough. But the thing is, I did do it live, and they really liked it. They gave me 10 more minutes to president because all the cameras were kind of up and on me a little bit. And he noticed that, and he said, "Hey," and I looked at him because I had 20 minutes. And he kind of rolled his fingers and said, keep on going. I said, okay, well, I can do that. That's pretty easy for me to talk baseball and to do what I did. It was fun.
Cuba has a huge history of baseball, including professional baseball in the United States. There were I think the Cincinnati Reds in the 1950s had their minor league team there. I think it was the Havana Sugar Kings.
Yep, you're right. It was Havana Sugar Kings, right.
And in the middle of the 60 season, let's just, because we don't want to get into politics, let's just say there was a climate change. The team mid-season moved to Jersey City. But to that point, there were a lot of teams that didn't just train in Florida, they trained in Cuba.
You say there was a climate change. Was that Obamacare or something, or what?
No, it was, let's just say Raul and Fidel were consolidating power.
Yes, of course they were.
So that's the climate that was changing. And it wasn't a good climate for businesses, especially U.S. Businesses. And I think that's how the farm team wound up in Jersey City, because Jersey City had a farm team for years, didn't have it for a while, and it was mid-season and they had to figure out what to do, and so they wound up over there. But, yeah, I mean, the American baseball teams trained there. They played games there. And even after the Castros rose to power, I think baseball became even bigger in Cuba. It became, like you said, it became their religion.
Well, here's what happened with Castro is he tried out for the Senators, and they said, you need to go work on this or whatever. And he said, well,
no
screw you. So I'm just going to, no curveball. So he just conquered the country and had his own team. So he pitched. He was the main pitcher. So that's what happened.
You can't beat him, own him.
You can't beat him, shoot him down. I'll listen to him. Matter of fact, it showed him pitching at this kind of a big theatrical thing we went to. He showed him as a pitcher, and I said, hey, bad form, no wonder, he's going to have elbow problems all 9 yards. He's really a big baseball fan. Really, really, really big.
Did you get to see Estadio Latinoamericano, the big stadium in Havana?
I did. Yes.
They call that their Yankee Stadium.
Yes. And what happened was it's one of maybe one or two stadium that is lit. And they're just kind of okay lights. But what happened when Toronto came in there and played, they say Toronto stuck $1 million into the field. So, as a good gesture. And if you noticed that it was Toronto that came in there and not a United States team, because, Toronto, Canada and Cuba have a thing going,
right.
But the U.S. and Cuba don't have a thing going. So
that's true, because I remember in my hockey days, you could get Cuban cigars in Canada. You just better find a way to bring them across the border and not get caught with them, because you get in trouble. And if you wanted to go to Cuba from the United States, you had to go to Canada first.
Yes, exactly right. Well, you can actually go through Mexico and Cancun, and there's a boat that'll take you over there about an hour and a half, one of those speed boats. Then you can go in on the back side. It's about 30 miles from Havana, actually. But then you get a cab, and go. You don't have to go to Havana, but I found all those little small towns interesting. There's 11 million people on that island, by the way. 11 million. So
that's 11 million baseball fans too, because nobody isn't a baseball fan.
Oh yeah. Well, there's 300,000 kids that play baseball there. That's a huge number. And I'm sure all they do is roll cigars and play baseball, and I'll probably have a shot of rum once in a while. I'll keep them going. So. Yeah,
and they're probably, farming sugarcane or something like that too, I would assume.
Well, you look at Chapman and some of these guys over here that got all these good arms. Everybody says, well, what weight program did you use? I used a machete and sugarcane, So they go, chop that sugarcane in the field, and you're going to get strong.
You and I talked about this, I think it was last week, about the fact that they're building up all of their muscles because they're working in the fields, they're doing manual labor, and they're not in a gym with like a coach because their parents have a ton of money, like the kids over here. And these guys don't break down like our guys do because of the fact that they've developed their muscles in such a more natural way.
Well, they can't quit for one thing and walk out of the sugarcane field and say I'm tired.
Right.
It's kind of like, well, I'm tired, lifting the weights, okay. And then, the weight guys, to protect their businesses, they have to say, well, I can't overdo this guy, otherwise he's not going to be paying me that $400 a month so I don't want to push him too hard, but I want to, have some credibility. So there's a yin and a yang in what they're trying to do right there. But if you go to the right guy that actually wants to get you in shape the right way, then you won't even, the guy would be, he'd be homeless because, he wouldn't have anybody, If the guy, if you're talking real true baseball specific, because if you run and you do the right things because of the lower leg work, I can kill you in about 12 minutes if you want me to, and you hate my guts and everything else. No. Okay, good. Bye. See ya. Try to walk off the field, but you don't have to lift weights and all that crap, all the time. And we were talking about that even at the conference about lifting weights. There was so much coverage on, what to do and what not to do, and you listen to some of the other countries because they're teaching skill level, by the way, over there, and we're not anymore because everybody's concerned about games.
Yep.
So Peter Caliente told me, look, he turned to me, he says, you're ahead of the game right now in the United States. And I said, yep, you're teaching the skill level. And they don't know any better. But to teach the skill, and that's great.
Well, you're right about that because I was talking to a friend yesterday, and his son plays travel ball and Little League ball, and he said that the better guys who run the better programs don't care about wins and losses until the kids are over the age of 12. They're just worried about working on the kids, learning their skill set, getting the fundamentals and understanding the game, and going that route as opposed to worrying about an 8-year-old game who's winning and losing.
All right. Well, high school and college coaches, they have to put that W up, unfortunately, and they kind of go for it at sometimes all cost, any cost, and that's what I really dislike because the thing is, if you do develop, if you really develop, you're probably going to win a few games. And I tell all my kids, I say, listen, I'm not one of these, daddy ball teams that goes around and saying, hey, I can win everything. I'm not into that. We're going to win some games. And, I've won championships and all that. Really? So that's a big deal? No, it's not a big deal to me. Big deal is I really don't care if we win. But the thing about it is we do win because if you develop, there's a chance you're going to have to play a good ball game, stay close, or possibly win the damn thing, And, and you're going to have some bad ball games along the way just as well. But, everybody says, well, I need this guy on my team, I need this guy on my team. So for what? Can you develop the guy or do you just want to win? So boo-hoo to the parent who says, boo-hoo to the parent that says, well, this team, they win and he's going to get noticed. Well, all the way up to 16 years old, if you do skill levels the right way, which 18 years old, good grief. We've taken losses in the minor leagues just to make a point to somebody. Good grief. The only place you really have to win is at the big league level. Really, seriously. Can you imagine some of these organizations that are sitting there and they're cringing of how many innings this potential first, second, or third round pitcher pick is going to, gosh, is this college coach going to break this guy right in front of me right here where we can't draft him? And now you got to limit into maybe 30 or 40 innings the first year, maybe less than 100 the second year, then hopefully he's ready the third year to break out and go forward. So, I'm telling you something that's true, to this day. And if the parents don't want to listen to that, too bad. Go to another show. Bye.
You know what though? It's really epidemic though because the parents don't have a clue, and so they're thinking that way, and then it gets to the kids, and the kids start thinking that way because I think about like the team that my daughter plays on, and we were scoring like 7-8 runs a game in fast pitch softball, which those games are pitching dominated. That's a great number to put up, but our pitching wasn't good, and so we would lose games. And they were talking to girls who were great pitchers about joining the team, and the girls were, well, you guys suck and you don't win, so we don't want to play for you. Right. And they try to make the case, well, if you came to pitch for us and gave up 1 or 2 runs with the team we have on the field. We're going to win a lot of games, but nobody wants to hear it. It's because it's ingrained in them. Win, 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 win.
Yeah. Well,
develop, which is what I think is what you're doing. You're trying to develop them.
Girls and guys softball, I mean, not so much on the guys softball, but there's girls softball, that's a natural movement to pitch. They can throw those 2 and 3 games and, like they sometimes do. And, because it's a natural movement. But once you crank that hand up above the shoulder, that's not natural. And, a lot of people, for some reason, think, these kids can throw forever. And I would like to say to the parent and or the coach, why don't you go do what you're asking that kid to do and see if you can even wipe your ass the next day, So that's what,
did you see?
Yeah, there's no way.
See what happened with Andy Pettit?
Which time?
He did not let his 2 boys. He did not let his 2 boys pitch Little League or travel ball. He wouldn't let them pitch until they got to college because he wanted to protect their arms. And both kids have had Tommy John surgery, with one having his second one, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, that's amazing. You come from a dad who is a major league pitcher, probably a borderline Hall of Famer, definitely a great pitcher in his own right, all-star guy, who never really had much in the way of injuries his whole career. And these 2 guys, these 2 youngsters, have these injuries, and maybe it's because they haven't been pitching all along, and so they're starting to use a motion that they didn't use ever, and maybe that's a problem. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the one thing I talked about over there was a thing I call it tensile strength, and I think I kind of came up with that term a little bit, but if you look back at the guys in the, let's just say 50s, 60s, 70s, and part of the 80s, and your dad or mom told you to go out and, clean the garden out, mow the lawn, do this, turn wrenches on cultivators, whatever, and you're using your hands more. From the elbows down, the kids nowadays aren't near as strong because the only thing they got is thumbs, because of Xbox. But the deal is, you can go work out all you want in a gym, and then you can stop and you don't push it because, your dad said, I want you to finish that job, and, you got to finish the job. It doesn't matter if it takes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, yet you have to finish the job. So tensile strength in the elbows, if I grip somebody's hand, you can tell, there's sometimes not totally what you need there all the time. It's kind of a false strength. And so it's not glued together right in the joints. And you see these kids, I say kids, I see these ball players anywhere from, 14 and up, being overthrown and not throwing correctly, which is really a big deal, and that's what I really covered. That's what I wanted to cover, and I did. And that's why they were kind of glued in on me. And, it looked right. Do I know everything? No, I do not know everything. I'm still learning the game, but I'm getting better and I'm close. But I see this all the time with kids, and then they don't want to get out and go between the lines and play, sandlot or anything. But the lots are closed because of the insurance reasons.
I think you're spot on though with this, because Pettit's kids, it would be a great example of that, because I'm sure Andy grew up where he was doing the type of work that you did growing up, building those muscles, big strong country boy, right? And let's just say when your dad's a former major leaguer and he's probably worth $100 million, you're not doing those things because it's beneath you and you're not exposed to it. And the only way you're working out is there's a personal trainer that you're working with, or a gym, or a personal coach. Right.
Well, there's a lot of peer pressure nowadays. So baseball's lost some ground, if you look by, 2025, the Latinos are coming on strong. There's good ball players over here, don't get me wrong, because, you got Bellinger that just came out in Hamilton. He had a so-so series. But, there's some good American ball players over here, but a lot of the Latinos. The world's now covering, a lot of baseball, and there's a lot of ball players out there. I mean, not only the Japanese and Latinos and Taiwanese and things, they're all over the place.
But think about it. We're just obnoxious to think that the world isn't going to pick it up and catch up to it. Because think about where we were in basketball. Remember, like in '92, when we put together the Dream Team, and we just destroyed everyone on the planet. And now, 25 years later, the world's caught up. A lot of the guys who are the stars in the NBA come from the world. And if you look at Major League Baseball, what do we say, about 35 to 40% of the players are Latino, and the best players who star in the league are Latino. And why is that? Because of the fact that they live, eat, breathe, and sleep this game, and they're not training by going to a personal coach and going to a gym and lifting weights and doing all these things like pitch counts. Like, did you have a pitch count growing up playing with your friends and stuff like that? I pitched stickball all day long. I never had an arm injury because I was throwing the ball. And when I threw the ball, I was throwing the ball trying to pace myself because I was going to play all day and not trying to throw as hard as I could for 5 innings and then hand the ball off to someone else.
Right. Well, I believe it. I do believe in pitch counts because, especially on these kids nowadays, they're just not put together and glued in there right.
But that's the reason you need it, because they're not put together and they're not pacing themselves.
Well, I actually needed pitch counts on me because I was in a different era as far as they didn't know what to do with the closer, how much to pitch the closer. So because 2 times I read an article about this, and I'm one of those guys that got in 60 appearances plus 100 plus innings, and that's not counting how many dry humps you didn't get into the game.
Yeah, that's not counting your bullpens on the side and how many times you warmed up and sat down.
Well, I didn't have bullpens on the side. My bullpen was just, if you're getting in 60-plus games, you're almost close to getting in half of them anyway. So,
yeah, but how many times did you warm up for 2 or 3 innings because Whitey took the ball down to the pen and you were staying warm and maybe threw 60 pitches warming up during the game and never got in?
I don't know if I threw 60, but if you get loose and you get close, you're right there. I mean,
well, how many would it take you to get loose? Probably at least 15 to 20.
I take 18 usually on my good days.
Yeah, there you go. And so if you're staying warm in between innings, like, up and down, because the guy is like flirting with danger, you could throw 40 to 60 pitches.
Yeah, what you did well though was you went pitch for pitch, or you read the game. The scoreboard tells you how to pitch and play a ball game. So if you're up 2 runs, you're down 2 runs. You're the guy up. What's going on. The guy Whitey or any other manager might come by you and say, hey, you got an inning or 2 today in the 6th inning in case this happens. If this happens, yeah, I've got it. And then so there's preparation right there, and that's really important. And especially put it on the pitcher's mind that he knows kind of what innings that he might be used in. And there's not always that guarantee, but and they don't do that every day unless they mean it,
Well,
because they know.
Today they have it down to a science, so to speak, because if you're the closer, you're getting up and ready during the 8th inning. Usually you watch the game, you see Kenley Jansen's coming in to close. 7th inning, he's got the thing in his hand, and he's stretching his muscles out. The 8th inning, he's already started a soft toss and throw a little bit harder, and the 9th inning, he's in the game. He has a set routine because, like you said, he knows the scoreboard. He knows it's a 1 or 2 run game, so he's getting in. But he just pitches that 9th inning. It's not like when you were throwing, Whitey could have had you come in the 7th.
Right. Oh yeah. Well,
so,
I know a lot of times
mindset.
Oh yeah, and some things I used to do. Even you get 8 pitches out there. Well, sometimes I would take 5, and I'd say I'm ready, and then it throws the hitter off hand just a little bit when I say I'm ready to the umpire, and he says play ball, and the hitter saying Jesus Christ, that's kind of fast. Well, I'm not going to keep continuing to throw pitches when I'm already warm, and I don't want you to keep looking at me warming up. And, if you look at the next to the last pitch that I threw, that's the first pitch you're going to get, actually, because I'm going to be fresh. But nobody seemed like they really ever caught on to that stuff.
I think you give the hitters way too much credit. I think they think that they could dictate the pace. I don't think they realize that the pitcher really controls everything.
Yeah, just drill one up. Fuck them, drill them.
So
here's my face for you. Eat dirt, bitch.
So before we go, I got a question for you. What were the 1 or 2 major things that you learned at this convention that you went to? Because obviously you taught some people some things that they didn't know about pitching and about baseball. But what did you come out of that learning that you didn't know before?
There were a few programs that, as far as how you develop, and I'm real big on the terminology and when to say it and when not to say it, when to shut up and when not to shut up. That was touched on, and I was a little bit surprised. So somebody had a thought, a good thought of pulling that together. And because I think it's very important that, coaches understand that it's really not about you, it's about the player. So that, drop the ego, because they don't want to see your ego or hear your war stories. That's one thing I know I don't do. They'll ask me for war stories, but I don't, I don't just, offer war stories to anybody. I say, listen, guys, this is really about you. And, if I'm overly concerned, they're going to say this guy's full of shit because he's trying too hard. Either you kind of know it or you don't. And if you don't know it, raise your hand and say, hey, you know what? I don't know that, but I'll get the answer for you. It's okay to drop your guard, because, kids can read right through you. Parents think kids are stupid. They're not stupid. They're smart.
Actually, even if they're not smart, they're still more informed today than they were when we were kids.
Exactly. All they got to do is go to, Google and Google it up and say, hey, the coach sucks. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Very simple. But, as far as, I think the part that I saw was everybody was really tuned in during this conference. And I was impressed with the questions that were asked after they had it presented, And, I did my own balance, rhythm, and tempo pretty much of the pitching delivery. And I did a lot of drills, because I make the drills harder than the actual pitching delivery. If you can do the drill, you can actually do the pitching delivery of, learning how to stay back at the rubber. And then once you go forward, everything gathers up and hits at the right point. So, but I don't know. There was just a lot of good stuff. But I think the one thing coaches got to do, they really got to drop that ego, sometimes. And it shows up. It shows up. And, I'm loud on the field. And I was always, coaching-wise, I was taught to elevate my voice. And I know parents that say, oh, I don't want to play for that guy, he cusses and everything like that. Well, Jesus Christ, your son cusses worse than I do, you dumbass. So, as a matter of fact, he taught me a few words, that I didn't know. And, that's so silly. It's like they're so damn naive here. It just bothers the hell out of me. You're not that stupid, are you?
I don't know if they're naive. They're just looking for something to complain about.
It's just amazing. Because you've got to spend a lot of time with the parents. Not the parents' fault sometimes either, because the parents each one today have to have two jobs. It's hard for the parents to find that 2 hours once they get out of school and say, geez, I got to go watch Little Johnny so he's not selling drugs on the corner, or, making deals on the cell phone, and, that's a big deal now. That's a big deal because the parent has to understand, God, it's really hard to find the time because they're worn out, but they've got to rise to the occasion to be a parent, and it's hard. It's hard. I see it.
It's hard. The moms that usually want to be their kid's friend.
That's a good point. Good point.
I think that's the bigger problem. Is being a parent is hard. Being your kid's friend is easy, but the easy road isn't the best road. And I always tell my kids, sometimes I'm going to tell you things that you're not going to want to hear, and you're going to be really upset about it. And the reason I do it is because that's what my mom did with me. And she always said, I don't want to be your friend. I have a lot of friends, and if I was looking for new friends, I'm not choosing you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to say no sometimes from peer pressure. That's the hardest. That's the one thing I try to get my kids to say, even to a coach. If you throw enough pitches and your arm's killing you for some reason, coach, and he looks at you and he's got his back turned to the parents in the stand and he said, hey, you're throwing good. You got another inning? No, coach. That's all I got. That's it. It's okay to say no. Don't just say, yes, I can go back out there and you blow, and, because a lot of coaches, they're just wanting to win. I mean, went back to the coach, but the parents, the parents also have to watch, what are they going to do? Collect that 12-year-old trophy and look back on it when they're, 28 and they're both with shrinks because they won't talk to each other? The son and the dad, or the mom and the dad, or whatever,
I always tell my daughter, I'm not going to push you. And the reason is because if you want something from within, you're going to push yourself. But if you only want to do it because I'm pushing you, it's for the wrong reasons. I'm there to help, train, advise, and try to guide you to the right thing, but I'm not shoving. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna close this sucker out here. What do you think?
I think I'm gonna go to the pen. I'm gonna hit the right hand. I'm gonna point to the corner and close it out.
Yeah. Well, it's all about throwing peas at the knees, no pies in the eyes, no wall balls, and you'll be just fine. Hey, Uncle Ralphie, we're having a good time out here.
I say welcome back.